Welcome to the Great Basin Fire Potential Outlook for March through June 2017. Over the next couple of minutes, we'll discuss the recent weather conditions across the Great Basin, along with how that has affected our drought conditions and the current state of the fuels. We will also talk about some of the global changes with El Nino and La Nina, and also the expected weather and fire potential over the next few months. If we look at the recent weather trend for February, you can see the image on the left shows well above normal precipitation over the last 30 days over the northern half of the Great Basin. Most areas have seen over 150 to 200% of normal precipitation, with still drier areas over southern areas. Temperatures, however, despite the increase in precipitation, have still remained largely above normal across the Great Basin, with the exception of parts of southwest Idaho. If we look at the precipitation dating back to the beginning of the water year, October 1st, 2016, and this pattern still holds, with well above normal precipitation over the northern two-thirds of the area, and still somewhat drier conditions over parts of southern Utah into central and eastern Nevada. However, still many areas are near normal. We did see some precipitation over southern Nevada and the Arizona Strip, which was above normal for the last few months. How this has affected our snowpack is no surprise with the extremely wet conditions we've seen over the last couple of months, that the snowpack is really healthy across the area, and most areas seeing snowpack above 150 or 200% of normal. This precipitation has also continued to improve drought conditions across the Great Basin, which has largely been removed in all areas. There are still a couple pockets of abnormally dry conditions over central Nevada and into central Utah. However, again, this is a vast improvement from what we saw even 6 months to a year ago. The drought outlook, the image on the right, shows that the drought really will remain unchanged. We'll continue to see some improvements, especially in these somewhat drier areas of central Nevada. However, again, we'll likely see no drought conditions across the area. Now, if we look at our fuels across the Great Basin, again, it's no surprise with the wet conditions we've seen over the last couple of months that fuel moisture is really high across all areas. Now we'll look briefly at the changes globally to El Nino and La Nina and how that will affect the Great Basin. If we look at the loop of sea surface temperatures across the equatorial Pacific from December through February, we can see initially in December very cool waters off the South American coast in the Pacific, indicating our La Nina status. However, as you can see, as the loop continues, the waters have warmed significantly, and this will be pushing us from La Nina at least to a neutral state across the Pacific. We may see the return of El Nino later this year. However, right now it looks like as we go into the fire season and possibly through the fire season entirety, we will likely be in a neutral state. Now we will look at the model forecasts for the changes in El Nino and La Nina as we go through the summer and into the fall. As you can see, still we are in a state of La Nina, but as we move forward through the spring and the summer, we will continue to see those warming ocean temperatures, putting us into a neutral state for probably quite some time. We may see that return to El Nino as we get into later in the year. And how this impacts the fire season across the Great Basin is we'll typically see some longer stretches of hot, dry weather, but also chances of precipitation at times as we go through June and July. Now that we've looked at our weather over the last couple of months and what is currently happening, we'll go into our outlook over the next few months. If we look at our weather for the next few months, temperature and precipitation patterns, we will still see somewhat cooler and wet weather throughout March and into April across especially western half of the Great Basin. However, as we get later into May and June, we will see drier and warmer conditions likely materialize across the area. This will help significantly dry out our fuels as we go through the month of June. However, we have had very wet conditions across really the northern half of the Great Basin for a few months now with well above normal precipitation and snowpack. So it will take some period of time for especially the mid to higher elevations to really dry out. So now that we've seen our forecast weather over the next few months, how will that affect our fire potential? We will continue to see normal fire potential, which is really minimal fire activity across the Great Basin, at least through March and April and into May, just due to the wet conditions and the continued periods of wet weather we'll likely see over the next 1 to 2 months. However, as we get into the May through June time period, we will see below normal fire potential in the mid to higher elevations of the Sierra Front into the Sierra Mountains and also over parts of southeast Idaho, Wyoming, and into the northern Utah mountains. This is just due to the significant snowpack that will again take quite a bit of time before it actually melts. So if these areas do see fire potential increase, it likely won't be till later in the summer. However, if we look at our lower elevations, as those fine fuels start to dry out and we likely have a significant fine fuel crop this year just due to all the moisture, we will see fire activity above normal in the lower elevations as we get towards later in June potentially and into more likely July and August. So now we will look at our national fire potential across the area over the next few months, and again this outlook only goes through June. So we will continue to see normal fire potential in most areas, with the exception of portions of the southern Rockies into the southern plains and also into the southeast U.S. over the next couple of months, which may see above normal fire potential. This above normal fire potential may continue into the early part of the summer. However, again, as we get into June out west, we will see that delay in fire season over the higher elevations. Again, this outlook only goes through June. However, as we move into July and August, we expect a lot more above normal fire potential, especially in the lower elevations. That concludes our weather briefing and fire potential briefing for the next few months. Here is a summary slide if you'd like to review. Again, we're looking at minimal fire potential over the next couple of months just due to the extreme wet conditions we've seen and the continued precipitation we'll see over the next 1 to 2 months. And also a delay in fire season in the higher elevations. However, again, in the lower elevation fine fuels, that will be our main concern, especially over the northern half of the Great Basin as we go into July and August. Thank you for listening to our briefing. If you have any questions, feel free to contact us at the email on the screen, or you can follow us on Twitter.